This is Open Minds Radio. Here again, your host, UFO paranormal researcher and journalist, Alejandro Rojas.
Hey, that's me. Hello and welcome to Open Minds Radio. I'm your host, Alejandro Rojas, and we have a special show for you this week. I say that every week because, you know, living in the moment, every moment is special, I think. Today's show is going to be astonishing because we have Robbert Vandenbroek along with Nancy Talbot. So if you've been listening to the show for a while, we've had Nancy on talking about Robbert, and we brought her on about a couple months ago to kind of defend her position, or at least to kind of explain to people who were skeptical about the case some of the details, because there's a lot of misinformation. Unfortunately, that's just the way it happens, and it's difficult to please everybody. But she's on again, and now we have Robbert himself on. Robbert is he's famous in the area for sort of being a medium type of person, actually. He is able to kind of sense different things. You know, I know a lot of us in the office here are into ghosts and stuff like that and that kind of thing. And so is my cousin Jason, who I saw just signed on to the chat. And that's the kind of thing this guy does. He's able to get information, and he gets these strange pictures, which are highly under dispute. People say he's just holding something into front of the camera when he takes a picture. However, Nancy Talbot has been there, and she has taken a camera out to Holland and said, "Here, Robbert, take a picture with my camera and my film," and these weird things show up on her camera. So, I mean, as everybody knows, Nancy is very rigorous in the way that she does her research. She's very scientific, and so that amazed her. However, the reason she was out there was for her specialty, which is crop circles. They were getting very simple crop circles in the area, and it seemed like Robbert kind of sensed when they were going to happen and where. Well, in some of these crop circles, they found piles of a very fine-grained white powder, and they've actually got this analyzed and discovered what that is. So we'll be talking more about that, you know, with some of the science, and it seems to be something that there's no way Robbert himself could have hoaxed or put there. And not only that, even though he's kind of the center of this whole thing, he is not the only one. You know, he's the only one we hear about out here, but there's a whole community of people out there that have experienced this stuff and been a part of this. So this is going to be really cool to have someone all the way from Holland on the air. Nancy's going to be on to kind of introduce the story and talk about some of what he'll be talking about. We'll talk to him about his experiences and how he feels about what's going on, to hopefully answer some of your questions. I got at least one question from a skeptic, and I'll ask that. You know, Nancy said feel free to ask any of the harder questions. And if you're a skeptic and you have some hard questions, feel free to ask your questions in our chat in the blog talk. But of course, you can go to openminds.tv and watch us via video live, and also chat right there under the video screen and ask some questions. So it ought to be really cool. I think this is his first, like his premiere interview in the United States. So I'm very excited about that. And I've just known Nancy for a long time. I know she's a no-nonsense type of gal. If she felt he was hoaxing, then I would fear for the guy's life, because she may just throw him, pick him up, and just break him over her knee. I mean, she doesn't take no nonsense. So it'll be fun talking to him. Also, some of the cool things going on. A couple of very cool events coming up. The Bay Area Expo is coming up. Bay Area UFO Expo. There was some question whether it was going to happen or not. It is happening. And, of course, the very popular Leslie Keene, who we had on last week, along with a couple of the Rendlesham Forest witnesses, will be there to speak at this conference. And Open Minds will be there as well. So we're going to have a booth. We're going to be selling magazines, maybe some hats and T-shirts. Sorry, if you're watching the video and you see this really cool polo I'm wearing, you'll see Jason's cool polo in a minute. Can't get those yet, but we'll have them up on the website soon. Just keep your eye on that. Bay Area UFO Expo.net is a website if you want to go check it out. Also, of course, our very own The Open Minds UFO Congress is coming up in February, the 23rd to the 27th. If you want to come a day earlier, you can join us for a film festival where we're going to be rating some UFO documentaries and giving awards out on the 26th, the night of the banquet, the Saturday. That'll be a lot of fun. Of course, we have Skywatch going on. We have a lot of great speakers. You can go to ufocongress.com to find out about that. And you want to go in and register early because there's limited spots in this beautiful, magnificent hotel that you are just going to love. You're going to go to this UFO event and you're going to think that perhaps you've stepped into some sort of lap of luxury. Essentially, what this is going to be like is if kings and queens of old were to hold a UFO conference with just the opulence and the splendor that all of man could furnish. That's the type of event this is going to be. Just incredible. It's going to be great. And we're going to hopefully see a bunch of UFOs out there in the desert outside of Phoenix. Also, the magazine. Issue number 4 is out on the streets. It's in the bookstores. I've heard people checking it out. And that's a lot of fun because Rendlesham Forest, which has been in the news a lot, because Leslie Kean in her book covered the Rendlesham Forest. Also, if you heard today, and Jason, I'm probably still in some of his thunder, but today there was a press conference at the National Press Club where some ex-Air Force officials talked about, the experiences they had at nuclear bases and UFOs, and it just so happens Rendlesham Forest was one of those because it was secret. They weren't supposed to have nuclear weapons there, but they did. The U.S. is always, we're the bad boy on the block. We're the big boy, but we're the bad boy. We break all of the rules. But it was a nuclear base, so it seems as though, and I think those of you who have been in this field for a while, we've had Robert Hastings on. We've had Robert Salas on also, who's talked about this. So you guys are probably not surprised that UFOs seem to be very interested in our nuclear capabilities. So we wrote a story on that too on our website with some links to the various radio shows we've done where we've interviewed those guys. Lots of cool stuff. Also on the website, as always, you can find UFO news, the daily headlines, and there's always UFOs in the news. Sometimes, like last week and this week, big headlines, Fox News, Fox all over the place, Telegraph, CNN, everybody's covering UFOs in the last few days. And we've got our news correspondent, Jason McClellan, here to tell us all about it. Hello, Jason.
Greetings, Alejandro, and hello, world. This is your Open Minds News Brief for Monday, September 27, 2010. The Boeing Company and Space Adventures Limited have announced plans to market low Earth orbit commercial rides aboard a Boeing capsule that is currently in development. The two companies see a market for taking tourists into space, and launches are expected by 2015, but no prices have been set. Boeing has apparently already partnered with Bigelow Aerospace in the hope of flying astronauts to a privately run space station being developed by Bigelow. Bigelow is a company who has been at the forefront of this commercial space tourism race, I guess.
Yeah, they've been a big player on that whole thing. In fact, they won a major case where it was kind of like there were certain countries that couldn't be taken into space, so that limited their customer base, of course. So they sued, or at least went to court over this, and they won, which was a big win for the whole space industry. Where now, except for our enemies, you can take practically anybody into space. So Canadians, you want to go to space, come down to the U.S. and we'll hook you up.
And now with Boeing in this, and Bigelow, and Virgin Galactic, there's so many different companies working on this, and I think it really is a space tourism race right now. Everybody rushing to develop these technologies, these rockets, and these ways to get people into space, and there seems to be a genuine interest in going into space, even if just briefly, to see the atmosphere. I certainly would do it, but again, we've discussed this. I'll wait till the prices come down.
Yeah, wait till the prices come down, and it would be kind of cool to spend a little more than something like 12 seconds, which is the current program that they're going to have started, is where you're in space for like just a few seconds.
I'd like to have a chance to run around and roll and have
Yeah.
zero gravity, but then be able to pull out a camera and take lots of pictures and look for things up in space.
Yeah, spend a couple hours. That'd be cool.
But if you go up there for a couple seconds, I think that's just enough time for your jaw to drop and
Yeah.
sort of take in the moment, and then you're done.
Yeah. And your muscles deteriorate pretty fast out there without any gravity.
Don't tell me that. That ruins my whole fantasy there.
Sorry, man.
Anyway, it's exciting news about the space tourism. Frank Drake, the astronomer who directed the world's first scientific research for extraterrestrial life 50 years ago, was among more than 50 scientists, scholars, authors, artists, and philosophers from around the world who recently took part in a workshop at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia. The event was organized by the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, also known as SETI. While they are still waiting for an answer to their question, "Are we alone?" SETI continues scanning the skies for extraterrestrial transmissions. Frank Drake, who founded the organization, is still active in SETI research at the age of 80.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some pictures. I think it was related to this story, and he's really looking old. I hadn't seen any pictures of him recently, but he's getting up there.
He doesn't look 80, though.
Yeah, true.
And he
He seems like a happy guy.
He does. He looks like he's active and enjoying what he does. And he reminds me of Wendell Stevens a little bit. Somebody in their 80s who's passionate about what they're doing, their quest that they're on, I guess.
Yeah.
And that just keeps them going.
I've always heard he's a nice guy, too.
I hadn't heard that, but that's great.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a nice guy.
I thought Shostak was a nice guy.
Great.
He is.
Nice people at SETI.
Yep, they're just a little backwards.
The opinion of Alejandro Rojas.
Yeah.
Just weeks after a hamburger-shaped UFO was spotted in Australia's Northern Territory, another UFO was seen there last week. This time, the object appeared over the Timor Sea, and the witnesses described the fast-moving UFO as a lozenge-shaped, bright orange light with long silver tail that appeared for a span of 10 seconds. The witness had been a seaman for 40 years and had seen many things in the sky, but he said that this sighting was different from anything he has seen before. I think their descriptions of UFOs are fascinating.
Yeah, they're really seeing some crazy. Well, they're Australians.
Hamburger-shaped and lozenge-shaped. I like these. These are better than our saucer-shaped or our cigar-shaped or triangle-shaped.
Yeah, well, different descriptions. I guess they just think about food more down there.
It's possible.
Everything's kind of related to something you put in your mouth or something like that. But here again, we've talked about this before. All of these sightings and all of these sightings being covered down there in their news, which is pretty cool, down under.
Right. There seems to be a lot more attention given to it, a lot more sightings, and I don't know why, but I'm fascinated by the increased attention given to Australian UFOs. And it's very exciting to know that we certainly have confirmed several guests from Australia coming to the International UFO Congress in February.
Oh, that's right. It is international because we have people from all over the world. That is exciting. And, it used to be that, especially even just as soon as a couple of years ago, all the reports, all the news, it went to the UK. It was big where all of the news we were posting, the headlines were from the UK and a few from the States. Now we have some from all over the place. We have the States, we have UK, we have China, we have Australia, all of those places posting a lot of UFO news.
And I don't know if the activity has increased or if just the reporting has.
I personally feel the reporters feel more comfortable to cover this stuff
I
now
think that's
that
probably
they see
true.
Bigger papers doing it.
Right. As you already mentioned, Alejandro, Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapon Sites, presented 6 former Air Force personnel today at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. These men all discussed personal encounters with UFOs at nuclear weapon sites. CNN even streamed the event live on their website. So it was cool how much attention this got. This was all over the news last week and today, and I was looking for any sort of post-event news about it.
Right.
And the only thing I saw today was from the Washington Post, I believe. And unfortunately, that guy is a very sarcastic journalist.
Oh, really?
And this piece seemed to be very sarcastic as well, starting out commenting that, they serve the same type of cookies at the National Press Club as they do at the Washington Post. So he figured he'd go down there for nothing other than the cookies. And that was basically the tone of the whole piece. So.
That's too bad. Most news seems to take it very serious because these are very serious people.
Right.
You know, we've had Robert Hastings, Michael Sala on, nice guys, very serious about what they do. Colonel Halt, I haven't had the chance to meet or interview, which I'd love to, but I hear he's definitely a very serious person. Peniston, of course, very serious about his. I'm not sure if he was there, but the Rendlesham witness, very serious, and they're all Air Force, mostly officers.
Yeah, and, you know, on the heels of Leslie Kean's book, you know, these are more credible witnesses coming forward, military personnel with their own first-person encounters.
Yep.
So people are taking it more seriously. Unfortunately, not everybody. And one of those not taking it quite seriously is comedian Jon Stewart, who has written what he calls the most sweeping and detailed work about humanity yet put to paper. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart presents Earth, the book, A Visitor's Guide to Human Race, is the lengthy title of this book that Stewart has written to serve as a guidebook to Earth for extraterrestrial visitors in the event that humanity either destroys itself or, as Stephen Hawking has warned, Earth is attacked and humanity is wiped out by a raiding extraterrestrial race.
I can't remember. I saw Huffington Post had posted it with some excerpts from the book, and it was just kind of funny. It's like, you know, he's telling the world history in 250 pages or something like that, because he said everybody else was just like talking too much, you know, when it could all be summarized a lot quicker. And there was some really funny stuff in there.
I certainly would like to see the book. It looks like it'd be fun, but nothing to be taken seriously.
Yeah, just fun.
London's Royal Observatory will join the Sci-fi London Film Festival in an effort to investigate the existence of extraterrestrial life. They are combining their efforts for an event entitled Life, but as we know it, that will be held on Thursday, October 14th at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich. The festival director explains, many people initially come to science through science fiction. We're happy to stimulate interest in scientific developments like astrobiology through events like this with a lot of fun and rote. And I agree with this. You know, there are a lot of people who are sci-fi fans, people into sci-fi, have watched sci-fi movies, read sci-fi books, comic books, things like that, but they're genuinely interested in the science and you know, space, and they start getting into it, and that's a great audience to tap to get them interested in the actual happenings.
Yeah, it's funny. Jason and I, my cousin, we had a friend who didn't like sci-fi. He didn't like sci-fi at all. He's an older gentleman, was mostly in city politics and stuff like that, and so very serious person most of his life. And he would say, you know, what he would propose scenarios, what might be going on with UFOs and ETs, because he was a believer in this stuff. And we would mention, oh, that's like on this episode of Star Trek, or oh, that's like on Star Wars when this or that. And he would get so frustrated because he thought this was a brand new and unique idea. But sci-fi, you know, has covered a ton of different scenarios and what could be, some being more plausible than others. And it's a great kind of brainstorming session.
It really is. And, you know, at every conference we go to, every function we go to that's UFO related, you know, we always hear people, the organizers talking about it or asking us, you know, how do we get young people involved?
Yeah.
And I think the sci-fi community, while some might get upset that sci-fi is either making fun of it or not taking it seriously, you know, I think it's a great way to reach that younger audience and get them interested in actual research and what's really going on. Yeah,
because a younger audience doesn't want to be so serious all the time.
Right.
And you don't have to. You know, you can have a wide variety. And you have to speak to all the different generations if you really want to get them all involved in discussing this thing.
Absolutely. And, you know, you can enjoy researching UFOs. I know I certainly do. You know, when I see a great sighting, I get excited about it.
Yeah.
I don't say, oh, I can't smile. This is serious stuff. UFOs are exciting.
Yep. Very.
Very exciting. England's Cumbria County has been a UFO hotspot for a while now, and activity seems to have increased in the past few weeks. Multiple lights in the sky were observed by several witnesses last week. Some lights are described as red while others are called orange. And while these sightings are sometimes blamed on Chinese lanterns, witnesses last week said that the lights were moving much too fast to have been Chinese lanterns. Other objects in the area have been described as graphite-colored spheres with no lights at all. Whatever these UFOs are, some residents believe that the increased activity could be a warning that an earthquake is coming. Earlier this year, increased UFO activity was seen in the area, and shortly after, a 3.7 magnitude tremor shook the county.
Interesting. I've heard that theory before, or when lots of Earth is being moved, people have said there are UFO sightings. So very interesting. I know we have, and I want to think, we've been getting a lot of UFO sightings reported to us, and we're getting those up on the website periodically, and we also put the longer reports in our magazine, and we do have someone from England who did see some Chinese lanterns, and he was kind of arguing whether they were or not Chinese lanterns, and he kind of was on the fence on the whole thing, I think. But so many sightings, and thanks for reporting those to us. But yeah, with the Chinese lanterns, especially when you showed me, they're in many different colors, not just red or orange.
Any color you want.
Mm-hmm. And we were looking at some that were even alien-shaped and stuff like this.
Right. There was another sighting in Tucson, Arizona last week. The local CBS affiliate was inundated Thursday night with calls from residents about strange lights in the sky. Witnesses saw 3 to 5 lights in the sky in a triangle pattern. One witness described seeing 2 of the lights go out, then come back on to form a straight line with the other lights. Other witnesses described seeing a craft that was huge. A woman reported seeing traffic and signal lights flickering as the object flew overhead. And another woman reported having to reset her satellite TV system after the object flew over her house.
Yeah, a lot of UFO sightings in Tucson in the last week.
And a lot of coverage by their local media.
Yeah, a lot of coverage by the local media. I kind of wonder, because there's the Tucson Citizen, a paper down there, now has a column. That's almost a daily column.
It seems to be daily. They write about a lot of new UFO news every single day, and they become a major source for UFO news.
So I don't know if that's helping to people report more. I know they also, that's where you go to train to fly drones, Army training down there. So if you're certified on controlling the drones, then that's where you've been certified. So it could be drones flying around, some of that, but a lot of sightings, and of course some of these descriptions don't fit the drone theory.
Right. Tucson does have a lot of military activity, but like the sighting last week that the news reporter captured on his video camera.
Yeah.
Just a stationary blue dot in the sky.
That was really cool. If you guys haven't seen that, last week you could go to our website and look at the headlines, but in Tucson, that was really cool where this reporter just saw this blue light. It was mid-afternoon, very bright, up in the sky sitting there, and I think he filmed it for 20 minutes. Did he say something like that?
I don't remember the time, but it was a while. He had his television news camera set up on a tripod.
So when he put those pictures on the web where he zoomed in as much as possible with his great camera, very interesting.
Yeah, and it's cool that it's happening right here in Arizona.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Malaysian astrophysicist Mazlan Othman has been named by the United Nations to be the official greeter if extraterrestrials land on Earth. While it may seem odd that such an important role for interplanetary relations would go to an astrophysicist rather than a politician, Othman is currently the director of the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs. These are the guys that put together the policies, they implement these rules for how to deal with things from space, menial things from dealing with space garbage to coming up with plans for meeting extraterrestrials, for dealing with viruses from outer space coming in contact with humans, things like that. So they do a lot of really important and exciting things. Professor Othman believes that first contact with extraterrestrials is more likely now than ever before.
That is, really interesting, and it's interesting that she's been doing this job for a while, but they're adding kind of this task onto her list of onto her job description, it sounds like. But it's interesting that they should choose to do that now, and right now they're saying, it's just because, astrobiologists are finding out more and more, and pretty soon they're going to find life, even if it is just microbial. But it sounds like, they're prompted by something else, maybe some of this other news, to go so far as, because you're not going to need someone like her to talk to microbes.
Right.
So, but you will need someone like her to talk to intelligent beings. Of course, the U.S. doesn't really often pay attention to the UN's authority, so I don't know if the U.S. would hold to that. But it is a very interesting development.
Well, and this year alone, it's incredible how many astrophysicists we've talked about.
Yeah.
They seem to really be getting more involved in this, taking extraterrestrial life more seriously.
Yeah.
It's been the topic of so many conferences that they've held.
And we've been talking about it so much along with UFO researchers, it almost feels to me like they're part of this community. And it really is a community looking for answers. And they even often discuss kind of this field quite a bit.
Right. I think it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting.
Me
seeing
too.
more science and seeing the mainstream accept it more.
Yep.
That is it for the news. Remember to check out these stories and more at openminds.tv, your source for UFO-related news. I'm your Open Minds news correspondent, Jason McClellan, and you've been briefed.
All right. Thanks, Jason. We've talked a lot about what's on the website. I just want to mention one more story on the website at least, and that is a Mexican politician who has been writing about extraterrestrials in history, kind of like the ancient astronaut thing. Really exciting. Her name is Guadalupe Rivera Marin, and she is actually Diego Rivera, the famous painter. She was on Frida, because that was Frida's husband. But the famous painter, that's his daughter. She's in her 80s now, but she's been a politician. She's been like their version of a representative, their version of a senator. She's done a lot of different politics. She's the ambassador to Mexico for the UN Food and Agricultural Organization. Just a lot of really high-end positions. And now, and she has been writing some stories for a while, but now she has a book out called Los Círculos de los Dioses, but she's been writing about UFOs and ETs and stuff. So really cool that she's been doing this. Antonio kind of, because he speaks Spanish, was able to read some of these stories and to translate some of what she writes about and put it into a great story on our website. And we were very honored to actually hear from her. She's now in her 80s. Just seems like a wonderful person. If you look at these pictures here, a very intelligent and tough woman. They ask her, don't you get embarrassed about writing this stuff? And she says, no, this is real. It's really going on, so I'm going to write about it. Pretty cool. So she wrote to us because she saw our story, thanking us for the story. So that was really cool. I wanted to mention that story and have you guys check it out. And maybe if you speak Spanish, you can order the book and read more about what she's got going on there. So that's a really exciting story that I wanted to mention to you guys. Good job to Antonio once again for finding some of this cool stuff. If you haven't read our story on the French information, the French reports that have been that was done, that's still really popular. We had Antonio on not too long ago talking about that. And then, of course, making a lot of news in this field is the TV show, The Event. What is that really about? Is that about the event that we're hoping for, the disclosure event, or the event that will cause disclosure? We're not sure. So we've done a review on this television show. Really good job. Tom Ruffin, who is our executive kind of television video producer, he's the one who wrote this review. And it's a cool perspective because he looked at ratings and stuff like that as well to see how it rated up against some of the other shows. A lot of people felt it was a little confusing and hard to follow. Nobody's still certain that it's about extraterrestrials and ETs. Hopefully it is, because that would be really cool. And I have been thinking a lot about this because I have been reading the book After Disclosure, AD, and it's written by Bryce Zabel and by Richard Dolan. And in fact, we're going to have Bryce Zabel on the show next week. We had him on about a year or so ago, and that was a lot of fun. So he is a producer. He produces television shows. He's a writer. He's a director. He's worked with Spielberg. He was the one who did the show Dark Skies, if you remember that. He wrote and produced it. So this book, as you can imagine, is kind of going into what the world will be like after disclosure. So it's a lot of fun. Someone who might have some information on that would be someone that may be speaking to extraterrestrials right now, and that would be our friend Robbert Vandenbroek in Holland, and we're going to ask him about those experiences. And we have him on the air with Nancy Talbot, who is also going to help introduce this whole thing and help him answer some questions so we can talk about this. So are you there, Nancy?
Sure am.
All right. How about you, Robbert?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Great. Thank you. It's great to have you on. I'm really excited to have you both on. And I know, Nancy, you kind of wanted to introduce and talk about some of these first events that kind of explain the phenomena or what's going on here.
Okay, I'll do this as quickly as I can.
No problem.
Robert's the one we really want to hear from. I first heard about Robbert back in the late 1990s, I think around 96 or 97, because one of the BLT research team's field workers in Amsterdam had heard about a young boy in southern Holland who had had some encounters with light balls out in the field and who had found a number of crop circles. And I didn't pay a great deal of attention immediately to this, but a couple of years later, I got another call from this field worker who told me that this same young man, who turns out to be Robbert, had had a very interesting encounter at his home. Now, his house is part of a small development in a little village in southern Holland, and his house backs up to a large farm field. The whole area is pretty much, given to farming. And he and his sister, one evening, in fact, it was August 2nd of 1997, had been upstairs in his bedroom listening to music. There's a small balcony that goes off of Robert's bedroom with a floor-to-ceiling glass doors that open out so you can go to the balcony. Those doors were closed at the time, but the curtains were open, and suddenly a large, glowing, and I think rotating, ball of light appeared right outside these floor-to-ceiling glass doors and frightened both of the kids. They went running downstairs to get their parents, and when they came back, there were burn marks on the eaves overhanging the balcony. There were little burn marks, just a little bit, on the outside of the doors to the balcony, and there was a pile of white powder sitting on the floor just underneath where this light ball had been. And we were being contacted because Robert's father wanted very much to find out what this white powder was. And the field worker knew that we were very lucky to have a number of different scientists who work with BLT as consultants. And so they thought that perhaps we could get the material analyzed. I said yes, of course. They sent the sample. We did the work and then, of course, sent it back to Robert's family and to a number of other people. It turned out that material was a very pure magnesium carbonate, which in itself is not, magnesium carbonate itself is not unusual. The purity level of it, though, seemed to be rather unusual. Now, since then, many, many, many events have been going on, and I'm sure in the future you will want to talk to Robbert about many of these other things. But we thought it would be good to start with these events that involve the white powder, because they are often found in crop circles that occur in Robert's area. The white powder also occurs and is found inside his home in conjunction with very unusual events that go on inside. And we have finally been able to get a very, very thorough analysis done. Now, for your listeners that have internet connection, they should go to the BLT research team's website and then click on the Vandenbroek case. that opens up a whole page that's devoted to Robbert, the background, what's been going on, his ability to predict. He knows when crop circles are getting ready to happen. He often knows exactly where, and usually knows what they're going to look like. And that is just the tip of the iceberg of what's going on.
Right. The URL, just for those of you, it's bltresearch.com/Robbert with 2 B's .php. We put it in the chat room, too, for people.
Good. So perhaps we should start with Robbert telling, what that first incident with the ball of light was like, what he felt, what he saw, what he thought about it. And then we can go on and talk about 2007, where at the bottom of Robbert's page you will see a number of reports, and there's one that is labeled Events at Woodenhead in the summer of 2007, and there were many circles which occurred that summer in that one field, and the white powder appeared in many of those cases.
Right, so let's start off when, Robbert, in your words, kind of explain the experience from your perspective of what had happened in the incident that Nancy just described.
The 1997 case.
Yes, the balcony cases. Yes. First, I will thank you that you will take me serious and that I can tell my experience. It was very strange. I was of that moment in the bedroom, and I was walking out the bedroom, and my sister was in her room, and I was walking to my room, and I was see very bright white light, very bright. And I was watching open the how you say that
the windows, the doors.
How you call it?
Were you standing outside of your bedroom?
When you let I explain it simple. My English is not so good. I'm so sorry for it. But when you go into bed and you close that.
The curtain.
Yes. And I was and I was open that, and I was see an amazing ball of light, so big as a car, and
wow.
Yes, it was very big, and my sister was also see it, and I was feel a very intense. I was get a very intense feeling, and the first thing what I was feeling was that it was an intelligent light, that the light was know me, how I are, and was having contact with me. And
he was conscious.
Yes. And in 1 second, the light was going out, and it was look like the same when you put a television out. And when the television, when you do the television out, when it was look like of it was it going in the deep. It was going, and my parents was coming. We was going downstairs and tell it, and my parents was coming there to the balcony, and there was a strange white powder there, and my father was take a little bit and was tasted a little bit, and he was do it in an how you say that pocket in a sort of plastic.
He gathered some of it up, yes.
Yes, plastic bag, and we that was a very strong experience, and I was in one way very happy that there was something that the white powder was there. That was very interesting. That something was there, and I was sure that the white powder was coming from the ball. I was feel that very strong, and I don't know why. I have not, when I was seeing the ball of light, I was not see that the powder was coming out. I have seen that I was not see that, Later we discovered that the white powder was there, and I'm absolutely sure that it was coming out the ball of light, sort of.
And one of the reasons he was so pleased, I think, to see the white powder was that he has had so many experiences, Alejandro, of so many different kinds,
yes,
that
sort of
this
evidence.
at least provided a little evidence,
Yes.
you know, that something real had happened.
And was the white powder found in a pile?
If you look at the picture on Robert's page, and you go down to open up the report that is entitled Robert Vandenbroek Update, October 2006, you will see right away, you'll see Robert's photograph first, and then the very next picture is a picture of this pile of white powder that was left on the balcony floor.
So kind of a pile, but kind of almost like it's spread out. And it looks kind of like almost like a powdered sugar type of, very thin type of powder.
Very fine.
Yes, very fine, yes.
So your feelings, Robert, were you scared at all when you saw this light?
It sounds maybe very strange for some people. All the time, and I remember me, all the time when I have this sort of spiritual experience, I call it spiritual experience, I feel me not, how you call it, I feel not angst. I feel not, I feel me very positive. And all the time I have strong feeling that it is very positive. I'm not afraid. I feel me very, very peaceful, and I feel that it is very good, and that it will say something, that it will open the eyes from some people. I feel also a sort of message in it, and I can live with it. I'm not psychotic or schizophrenic. You know, I can handle it, and I'm not. I get not panic attacks from it. Many people think that when this sort of things happening, that they have panic.
Let me tell Alejandro something here, Robert, because this is funny. He is not afraid of these events. He does not have fear when they occur. But I can guarantee you he has absolutely normal fear in other situations. And I remember one night when he and I were out in the fields at a nature place, and I wanted to walk up this lane. There was a gate there, and I wanted to walk up the lane, and we started to walk up this lane, and a whole bunch of sheep suddenly appeared, and Robert dashed behind me as fast as he could.
The sheep were scarier. Well, it's not something that's completely unheard of, too. I mean, in the Phoenix Lights here, when that happened, around the same time period, there are a lot of researchers who think that it's kind of abnormal that so many of the people that saw this gigantic craft floating over the city said that they weren't afraid. Instead, they had this feeling of kind of awe and wonderment. They were just like, thinking, wow. Whereas a lot of people think, people would be afraid in these situations, but it's not always the case. And
it's not. And in the more unusual events, when, in fact, I think in Robert's case, because so many things are always going on, many of his family members, have experienced some of this too. And you get, after a while, it's almost normal. I mean, it's not exactly normal, but when you are not hurt, and you are not hurt, but instead you are awed, and you have wonderment, and you realize there's often a very peaceful feeling that comes with it. And Robert has seen so much now that maybe sheep scare him, but all this other stuff doesn't.
Robert, do you have any sort of feeling or an idea of how this white powder may relate to the object that you saw?
What for sort of powder it is?
Yeah.
Well, he was. I'll tell something about the analysis first, and then Robert will take it from there.
Okay.
He didn't know. He had a feeling that it might be useful, helpful in some way, but other than that, he didn't really know. And the analysis now that we've been able to conduct on these events keep happening, and there was another event of the white powder that occurred last fall, and Robert saw in his mind's eye the white powder appearing, and in that case, that's the one that we've done all this in-depth analysis with, not only infrared spectroscopy carried out by Phyllis Budinger, whom you know. She's an analytical chemist, but we also in that case did something called inductively coupled plasma mass spectroscopy. Oh my God.
Wow.
And that is a test which could tell us about the purity level. We knew it was magnesium carbonate, and we knew it was relatively pure, but we didn't know quite how pure. Well, this ICP-MS test tells you that, and it came back with a 99.99% purity level. And then, out of the blue, a very well-known mineralogist called me, a man I had never met before, and he offered to do, he's a mineralogist, and he offered to do something called X-ray diffraction on the same material, which we then sent to him, and he did carry this out. And he said not only from the X-ray diffraction work that he did, not only was it 99.9964 something or other percent pure, at that purity level, it was most likely not a refined ore, because magnesium can be found in the earth and then refined. He said it was most likely not that, but that it was a chemically produced, a synthetic magnesium carbonate, because it was so very pure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, magnesium carbonate in the particular chemical formulation that this material is used by humans as a fire retardant. We put it in our fire extinguishers and things. Whether that is why it is present in these many cases around Robbert, I don't know, and I don't know if he knows. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, that's very interesting that the results from the white powder, and it's very interesting for scientific people. I think so. I was having different meanings about in the first time. I was feeling intuitive that it was very special, and in the beginning I was thinking that it was a Nephew effect. I don't know if I say it good. A Nephew effect.
Something to heal?
Side effect.
A side effect.
Yes, a side effect from side product from the light bulb, and that it was maybe not important. And later I feel the powder, and when I feel it, I feel a very high energy. I feel that I'm more open then, and but that's a spiritual part from it. I have a feeling that maybe in the future there is more coming out, that maybe also the reason is coming out, what the reason is that the white powder is there.
Coming.
Yes.
One of the things that the mineralogist said that I thought was fascinating was he went looking on the internet, looking up this sort of magnesium carbonate, and he found that there were several different groups of scientists in many different countries, I think Sweden, Canada, and there was some other place also, who have been working with, it's called hydromagnesite when it is this purity level and in this particular chemical combination. And he said that they are using hydromagnesite with the idea that it might be useful in capturing or sequestering, they called it, the excess CO2, the excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which of course is one of the, it's excess carbon dioxide in the air, in the atmosphere, which is one of the problems that causes climate warming.
Mm-hmm.
And he says these scientists are all working on various ways to use hydromagnesite to sequester, in other words, remove the CO2, the excess CO2 from the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And if in fact that eventually becomes a reality, then its appearance in these around Robbert and in these crop circles might be that it's urging, or whatever is doing this is trying to clue us into that, you know?
Someone in the chat just mentioned that magnesium carbonate is referred to as chalk, and is the kind of thing that people put on their hands in rock climbing and stuff right now. But the purity level that you found this stuff that you found at Roberts to be is what's significant.
Yes, this is much, much, much purer than the same sort of material, which is available, for many uses.
Mm-hmm.
The fire retardant being one. People use it on their hands in athletics and sports. But it is the purity level. It is so refined in this case that it would take a chemist to make it, a laboratory, of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Robert's got some sort of secret degree in advanced chemistry, I think we can be pretty certain that he didn't make it.
Now, I think you had mentioned before on the show that this stuff, at the purity level that it was found, is very expensive.
It costs, to buy it in a laboratory, the amount that we have now recovered from many of these incidents, we think is what's running around between $7,000 and $8,000 U.S. for the amount that we've recovered in all these various incidents.
Mm-hmm. And about how much was found in this first incident? Maybe what percentage of all of it that you have was found in this first incident?
Oh, not terribly much in that very first.
Okay.
Probably only ounces in that first deposit. In fact, I don't know if we kept the entire first deposit. But since then, we've been doing it, and we have whole jars of this stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at the weight that it is, it comes in at the $700,000 to $800,000 U.S. is what it would cost if we were to go and buy it
mm-hmm.
at a special lab, or if somebody out there is buying it and doing this.
Are you going to put it on eBay?
That doesn't make any sense. What?
You're going to maybe put it on eBay, make some money.
That's an idea.
And what's interesting, like you said, it's a fire retardant, or used in fire retardants. And there was burning found. Did you say there was burning on the patio?
Yes, there was different burning marks on the window the window woods. Yes.
On the wood part of the frame of the window.
Yes, on the wood part. Yes, outside.
And on the eaves upstairs. And in one of the recent incidents inside the house, and here you must know that this is a very securely locked house. Robert's father there are many locks on all the doors and windows. There's no way that anyone could get inside that house when it's locked up at night. And yet on a number of occasions, the white powder has appeared inside the house in conjunction with various events. And in one recent one, something appeared, a big moth appeared covered with this white powder lying on a table near an important photograph. And some little plastic roses that were in a vase right next to it were burned also, just a little bit around the edges.
Mm-hmm. And the moth, was this a large moth?
It's the largest moth in the world. This is just something new that has started to happen, and it appeared, no one knows how it appeared, where, out of what, but it is called an atlas moth. It's the largest of the moth species, and most importantly, it is indigenous to Southeast Asia only. Wow. It never lives in Holland, and definitely does not live in Holland in the middle of winter.
Holy cow, I'm looking at it on the internet, and it's like as big as your hand, and they're beautiful, multicolored.
Yes.
Is this what this looked like?
That's what that one, I mean, did. We haven't written this up yet. This is for some future report.
Okay.
But I think we ought to go on to the Woodenhead incidents, because they involved the creation of brand new crop circles.
Yeah. Well, before we go on to that, and I do want to get to that before we, get too far, but I wanted to ask Robert, when you found the powder in the house, how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel a little scared or uncomfortable, or did you still feel kind of okay about it?
I was feeling very okay. I was feeling very happy. I was also, it was having a message. It was a personal message for my mother. And when it was in the house, the powder with, that was very, very special. And it was make me very emotional, very emotional. I was feel very strong. That it was very good, very peaceful, and that it was a message for my mother, and that it was very beautiful. It was a sign from the other dimensions, from heaven. I was feel that very strong, and it was having something to do with family relatives that was passed over.
Mm-hmm.
It was feeling very good.
So you received messages, and it was all very positive, which is great. I mean, because of course sometimes people get scared. Well, let's get into 2007. We'll ask more about these experiences too. But yeah, let's get to 2007. And did you want to start off explaining that, Nancy?
Just very briefly, that this is the funny part. There's a farmer who lives in Heuven, and who has some fields there where circles have appeared in the past. Now, Robbert has seen many, many crop circles form, sometimes with the light phenomena, sometimes not, sometimes balls of light, sometimes flashes of light, sometimes tubes of light, all different kinds of things. And a number of these formations have occurred in this one farmer's field, and he doesn't like them. He's not happy with this at all, and I think was quite angry several times. Well, Robbert always hopes that the circles will come in somebody's field who doesn't get so upset, because he doesn't like, the farmers to be angry. But this particular farmer in 2007 decided on his own to rent a field at a place called Buschenhof. Now, a loose translation of that term in English is Woodenhead. This farmer, who absolutely refuses to deal with the crop circles, rents this field in this other place, and wouldn't you know, that summer, every single circle, well, I think almost every single circle, happened in that poor man's field over and over and over again. Robbert didn't know that the farmer had rented the field until afterward. It would be the last thing he would have wanted to have happen, but it did. And I think what's funny is that the farmer is refusing to accept that the circle phenomenon is real, and somehow it knew where this field was that he had rented, and it put them all down in that field that year.
That's funny. He couldn't run from it.
No, I don't think so. But, Robbert, why don't you tell the very first one that appeared that summer, 2007. It was the night of June 20th and 21st, and you got a very strong feeling. That angst thing was building up, and you knew that a circle was getting ready to happen somewhere?
Yes, and I was feel it very strong, and I was very strong. Know that I was most going to that field there, and it was maybe strange. I was feel me very nervous. I don't know if it was really angst, but it was a very nervous feeling and a very
You said the energy was stronger than usual.
Yes, absolutely. It was stronger and much stronger, and I was feeling me very. It was look like it sounds maybe strange. Of my body was too little for the energy, and the energy was too big.
So just overwhelming.
It was yes, exactly. What I was having there in that field, having also by the other circle formations there, very strong experience and also very beautiful experience. Sure, and it was very good. And
you said that you saw. This is before the circle, the first one happened. You said that you saw little satellites that were actually flattening the design. What do you mean by that?
I have seen it more times. They are, I call it satellites. They are a little balls of lights. Sometimes I have also seen that sometimes things sticking out the balls of lights.
Yes.
And
like the Russian
Sputnik.
What was it called? Yeah, Sputnik, exactly. That's what he said it looked like.
Yes, I have seen it. I'm really sure. I have seen it more times. I have also seen it years ago in a cornfield circle, same sort of objects, and I was seen it also there. And I don't know exactly what it is, but sometimes I have a feeling. And maybe that sounds strange, but I'm now on a special radio station that is interesting in UFOs. So I can maybe make a step further. I have a feeling that the little satellites coming from a bigger mothership and a bigger sort of instrument from the other dimensions. And I don't know exactly what it is. It's a big mystery, but it was very strange.
The satellite type of objects that make the crop circles?
Yes, I have seen it.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes, I have seen it. Yes.
Now, in this case, before he went to bed this night, he drew a picture of what he thought this new crop circle was going to look like because it was quite late, and he doesn't go into the fields alone at night now because he doesn't want people to think that he makes them, So he drew a picture, and if you're reading the Woodenhead report, you'll see underneath Woodenhead number 1, he's drawn a big center circle with 4 little circles outside.
Yes.
And was it the morning of June 21st?
Yes, and I was watching with my mother and with Ellen. Yes. Yes.
And Peter, Robert's father, went to the field, and they found this. They went to this exact field because Robbert knew, and they did find the big center circle, but there were only 3 of these little circles outside. Now, I know that when Robbert sees 4 circles, there are going to be 4 circles. And at first, there were only 3. But how did the 4th one come about, Robbert? Do you remember?
Yes, sometimes I have so many experiences that I must sometimes thinking so hard. I have so many things seeing, and I have respect, and I put it in my heart very deep, and thank God or thank the light of how you will call it, that I get that experience. But the circle was coming later, and that was very strange. What I was remembering, I was with Ellen and with my mother.
Yes.
There in the circle, and we was there, and in the beginning the circle was there not, and we were standing in the circle, and we discovered the little circle.
That another one occurred right then.
Yes.
Oh, while you were there.
When we was there. Yes.
Did you see one of the satellite or a ball of light or anything during that period?
I was well thinking that I was see a flash of light there in my eye hook.
You mean means in his mind's eye.
Yes.
In his third eye, his mind's eye, where he saw it.
Well, I was not see it with the other persons was not see it. And we discovered the circle there, and we was sure when we was there, when we was coming there was 3 satellite circles, and then there was 4 circles.
Yeah. All of a sudden, this next one. I wanted to ask, one of the things that you mention often is that extra-dimensional, as opposed to, even when you were talking earlier about a mothership type of craft, possibly with these satellites coming out of it, but more of an extra-dimensional as instead of extraterrestrial. Is there a difference you see there then?
I have a feeling that it is going same with each other. I have the message that I get is that it is going both with each other. Only I know that there are difference in it. You have
there are different kinds of extraterrestrials, is what you mean? Yes.
Yes, exactly. That is what I mean. And you have so many. You have different groups also in space, also in the other dimensions. They have some planets, interplanetary plans, and I feel that what's going on here, that it is absolutely coming from the light world, coming from a peaceful intelligence. They will
from the
helping
spiritual
people
realm.
And spiritual realm, and will helping people get growing up, and that get growing up spiritual insights. And by the most people, this sort of insights is coming when they are dying, and they're coming in the other dimensions. And now we're living in a time that it's coming by many people before the death, that many people growing now of this moment spiritual, very quick. And I have a feeling that the phenomena around me, and also the effects around me, I mean the circles, the pictures, the mystical things they are happening around me, that they are make holes in the brain window, collective brain window from the people, and that people get more open for another growing up mind. And
so expanding our mind's kind of ability, or expanding our mind to experience them.
He thinks that the purpose behind the circles and all the strange photographs and all these other events, as we can make them public and share them with the public, help many, many people become more aware of the spiritual reality before they die. In other words, while we're living. And that this helps people grow up and take more responsibility for knowing that the spiritual part of reality is real.
Well, then, Robbert, would you liken these experiences to kind of angelic experiences?
I'm so sorry. What does that mean?
He wonders if actually he has actually there are angels, particular kinds of angels. There's one that has been sort of Robert's guardian angel since he was quite young. Let's go on just a little farther before we deal with that question, okay?
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Take us further down the path, Nancy.
Okay. I want people, if they're on the internet, to go onto if they're in the Woodenhead report now, to go to Woodenhead number 3. Because this one involves this time there were witnesses to Robbert literally disappearing right in front of their eyes. A red ball of light suddenly appeared, and Robbert disappeared. And the red ball of light did a number of things. What the witnesses report this was Robert's mother and a friend, Ellen Gomez, who goes to the circles with Robbert often. And they were, all three of them had gone to the field because Robbert had this feeling that more was going to happen. And they got there at around 11 and spent some time in the circles that were already there. And then Robbert became restless and walked down one of the tram lines a little bit away, but where they could see him, his silhouette, very clearly. And they both said, both Robert's mother and Ellen, that suddenly, simultaneously, Robert's figure completely disappeared, and a small red ball of light appeared instead at a location some distance away and more in front of them. And as they watched, this ball of light was rotating slowly, maybe 3-4 feet over the crop, and it looked like a red dashed line. It was moving so slowly. Then it started to move very quickly and it started to look like a solid red line. Then it turned on an angle, a 45-degree angle, and continued to look like a solid line, but on an angle. And then all of a sudden, it started to bounce up and down, and it did that 3 times, and then just disappeared. Where it disappeared, suddenly, there was Robbert. Now, tell them what happened when they came to you, Robbert, what you felt, and how you then discovered the new circle.
Yes, it was very strange. My mother and Ellen was seeing the red light. What I remember was that I was standing there and that I was feel very strong, very peaceful feeling, and a very restless. I don't know if I say it good. Very nervous feeling. I was getting, and
restless is good. Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I was walking in the tram lines, further in the field, and I was remembering me that I was see in 1 second on the right part from me a little red light, and of that moment I remember me nothing. I remember me only that I was standing on another place and other place in the field, and that I was discover a new circle there, and that was so.
Remember the noise you heard?
Yes, exactly. That's good that you say that. I was hear a very strange noise, and I was feel that whole my body was tingling. I was feel that it was very. How must I describe that? It's the
tingling
same.
is tingling. Yes, it's good. It's a little bit like you stick your finger in an electric socket.
Yes. It looks like when you take a balloon and you do it in your hair. Yes, and you do it
static electricity.
Yes, above your arms. It was exactly that sort of feeling that I was having on that moment. Yes, and it was very strange. It was a sort of time moving, I think so. I was remembering me nothing, that I was walking in the field. I was standing on a whole different place of that moment, and that was a time moving. That was absolutely. I don't know what they're doing then. Ellen and my mother have see with them eyes that I was disappeared in 1 second, and I was standing on another place.
Interesting. I've heard abductees who have had missing time describe it like the film of their life was snipped, and a chunk is gone, where all of a sudden they're living their life, and the next moment they're somewhere else.
Yes,
that's exactly how it felt. And when the women got to Robbert, they told me that he was a little dizzy and didn't know exactly. He knew something had happened, but he didn't know exactly what. And once they knew he was okay, all 3 of them went to where he had been, and that's where the new circle was. And right smack in the middle of it was a whole pile of this white powder.
White powder, yes, exactly.
Right.
And I think, then, in cases like this, because this has happened again, as you'll see in a minute, that maybe because the white powder in this chemical formulation is a fire retardant, that maybe it was protecting Robbert somehow. Although I don't know, you would think it would be all over his body, which it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I mean,
yes.
And has something like that happened before?
Well, it has happened where he was picked up, and this case is covered. It goes on a little bit farther. How did Robbert get from one section of the field to the other?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some years ago, in 2000 actually, he had wakened in his bed to find that not only was he not wearing the same thing that he normally wears to bed, he was wearing sweatpants, and there was mud all over the bottom of them, and there was a hole in the back of one of the legs, and he had had an experience, again in his mind's eye, of being in the air, of being up in the air somewhere, watching as a circle had formed. Again, the house is locked so much, and people don't know this, but Robbert doesn't drive. His bicycle, and now he does have a motorbike, but back then he had a bicycle. These things are locked in the garage. His parents' bedroom is right next, it's on the first floor next to the garage, and you could not possibly open these garage doors or any of them without waking the parents. Where did the mud come from? Where did the burned thing on the back of his leg? I mean, his leg wasn't burned, just the pants. Another case, another incident, he was picked up by a ball of light. He saw this big ball of light down at the end of a road one night, and he was on his bicycle, no place to hide. He got it in his mind all of a sudden to take a picture because he had a camera, and he didn't tell me this for a couple of years, but the ball of light didn't, what happened was the instant he got the idea in his mind to take a photograph, at that instant the ball of light, boom, it encompassed him and picked him up. He went unconscious. He could feel the bike falling away. And the next thing he knew, he was in some completely different place.
Mm-hmm. Some incredible experiences. And I know, was there another one that you wanted to get into, Nancy?
There's one other that I would like him to tell about, and that is with the flashing eyes, the creature that you saw. Robbert discriminates. The standard concept of E.T. is not the type of being that is generally, although there are many different kinds that Robbert has encountered, that typical, fearful, sort of Whitley Strieber type creature is not the creature that is involved generally in Robbert's situation. Now, in this case, we're still at the Woodenhead Field a little bit later, and it's Woodenhead number 4. And this time there were many people, Robert's parents, both of them, his sister, his younger sister, who also experiences many of these things, Ellen and her husband were all with Robbert because Robbert had this feeling, again, that something was going to happen, and they all went with him to support him and also perhaps they hoped to get photographs. So can you tell them about that particular thing? Can you remember the details?
Yes, I was, you have tell it very good, thank you. That's easier for me that you have tell some part from the story. It's much easier. I was with the people that was Nancy Cole, and
witnesses.
Yes, witnesses, and I was get the same nervous feeling, and I was walking in the tram lines further in the field, and I was feel on my heart a very same feeling from peaceful feeling. The same feeling of I was coming home. I was coming home, a very peaceful feeling and a very happy feeling. And I looked like if I was walking with my intuitive compass.
Intuitive compass.
Compass, yes. And I was walking to some part from the field, and there was bushes there, and I was I was very sure that I was a little bit nervous when I was knowing that the farmer was afraid and was upset, was very upset about the circles. And
remember, this is that farmer who doesn't like the circles.
Right.
And Robbert knew that he was very upset that they were now occurring in Woodenhead.
Yes. I was very... I was a little bit afraid and nervous about it. I was not so very good relaxed, and I was walking, and I was a little bit in shock while I was seeing a silhouette standing by the trees there, and I was absolutely sure that it was the farmer, that he was coming. It was evening, it was dark, but I was sure that he was coming and was maybe say go away, and that he was maybe aggressive. But I was walking closer, and I was watching very good, and the figure was turned his face to me, and I was watching. I was see very clear that it was not a farmer, but I was see very clear and white, very white face, and big eyes. How you call it?
Eyebrows also.
Also eyebrows.
Yes, big black almond-shaped eyes.
Yes. And the eyes, that was very strange, was reflecting.
Yes.
It looked like if there was...
you said a yellow-green, it shot a yellow-green light out of its eyes toward you.
Yes.
And then you heard the French fry noise?
Yes, exactly.
French fry.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And this face does look kind of like the Whitley Strieber one on the website. It's got the kind of wider almond eyes, except it has eyebrows. And then the crackling noise, so that's the French fry. Is that what you mean, like a crackling type of...
The noise, like when you put potatoes in oil to cook them. That's
exactly the noise, yes. That I have hearing that more times when crop circles was forming. That's a very famous sound for me, and I was here that of that moment also, and I was feel a very strong contact, telepathic contact with it. But
you said that you felt like it knew you.
It was knew me in the deepest from my soul. Yes.
Yeah.
It was very. That was not human. That was really contact, and it feel so deep and so truthful. And I was not afraid. I was not having angst. It was feeling peaceful, very peaceful. And I was found also there a circle with white powder in it.
Again, the white powder, right where he saw the creature.
Yes, exactly.
There was another dumbbell circle, this time with the white powder right there.
Yes.
Well, it's incredible, and it's great that, these experiences can be so positive. I guess there are some questions in the chat, so I'll get into some of these. And one of them you just answered, if you had seen one of these creatures, and you kind of just described that. And this creature that you described just now, if I remember, also came through in a photograph that you took, right? Very similar looking?
He has many photos of beings, and there's one that he has made public years ago when, in this case, the creature, just as in the Woodenhead field, it actually materialized in his living room over a period of an hour and some minutes, and Robbert took multiple photographs of it as it formed, and only one photograph has been made public of when it was most formed. But Robbert took many photographs all during the period of time. But these beings they look different in that they have long, thin faces instead of wide. They have very long, thin necks, not short, little squat necks, you know?
And is this picture on it's on your site, isn't it, Nancy?
The one from his living room is not on the site yet. It's another report. But there's a drawing that Robbert made of what the one at Woodhead looked like.
Yep, and that's on the site. I'll put that in the chat, too, because make sure people see that. All right, and then for the missing time period, someone was wondering if you had ever gotten any regression or hypnosis done to figure out what happened during that missing time period.
No.
Yes, that's very interesting. I have never ever do that. I have the idea to do it maybe and to get under hypnotic and going back in that missing times. I was having an experience. That's a too long experience to tell it now. I was having an experience with a light ball that I was. The light ball was taking me. Also take my bike. That sounds very strange. Maybe some people laughing now. But
it took your bike too?
Yes, exactly. I was not realized that of that moment. That was the moment that what was Nancy was telling that. That was the moment with the picture that I was making a picture, and I was standing with my bike on the road, and the light bulb was coming to me, and I was remember me nothing more on that moment. Only that I was hearing that my bike was falling, and I was remember me later that I was wake up 14 kilometers further.
The standard Buten time.
Yes. And the strange was that when I was wake up, I was see many lights flashes in my eyes, and the blackness was going out my eyes, and I was see lamps from trucks, from big trucks.
Headlights from the cars and the trucks.
From the cars and from the trucks. And I was realized that I was lie down by a very busy road.
Oh, no.
Yes, and there was bushes. Bushes?
Yes, bushes.
Bushes.
Well, I've got time for one more question. Sorry, because we're out of time. But people are wondering, there's one question in here, is why you? Why do you think this is happening to you in particular? Although it sounds like it's a great experience for you.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I have a feeling that it has something to do with it. It has a reason that I must open the eyes from people, and that this sort of experience is that I'm a sort of bridge to this world and the other world, and it have.
He said bridge. What he meant was bridge.
A bridge between the worlds.
Yes, and the exactly reason is it's a mystery that why get some people some sort of lives. That's a big mystery. Maybe we understand that when we passed over in the other dimension. I feel that it has a reason that I must give a sort of positive smet to the people that they get a more spiritual growing up mind.
We're totally out of time, but I think people got your message. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on the show. we've got seconds left, so I gotta say goodbye.
Alejandro.
It was wonderful to hear from you, Robbert. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you that you was taking me serious.
Yeah, it was a great treat for me, and I know the listeners. Remember, join us next week, and we'll have Bryce Zabel on. We'll be talking about after disclosure. Thank you for listening to Open Minds Radio, your UFO news authority.